this thing seriously sucks. But in a good way, because it's a vacuum. Get it? This week, we're talking about the Eufy Omni S1 Pro. Let's get into it. Last week, I had surgery on my knee to fix a torn meniscus. In the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively easy procedure with a really short recovery period. But anytime you do surgery on a knee, makes it really hard to do things like vacuum and mop. So luckily, I had just gotten this Eufy, 2 weeks before, and was doing some testing on it for the channel, and it came in incredibly clutch. I found this vacuum on Kickstarter while I was looking into an update on one of my previous projects that I had backed, and decided to give it a shot. Before I'd moved to Utah at my previous home, I had had the Roomba version of both a vacuum and a mop and had mixed reviews on them. The mop, not my favorite. The vacuum is decent for what it was, but I decided to try something new. So just in case you're new to robot vacuums, here's a quick overview. They are a robot that vacuums. I told you it'd be brief, so in order to fill up the allotted time on my script, I'll just ask you to comment any questions you have below, and I'll make sure to answer them, as well as like and subscribe. It's free and helps me out. And if you end up liking this product, there will be a link down below to order it. It is in a pre-order kind of shipping phase at the moment, so I don't know when it'll be active, but it could be by the time you're watching this, so description down below. Now, I'm going to break this up into two sections, things that I love and things that I don't really love, and then I'll give you my final opinion. So, pro number one, the volume. Like I said, previously I had a Roomba, and it was my first foray into robot vacuums, and it was great. Loved that I didn't have to vacuum all that frequently. It ran every day around lunchtime and got the job done. I didn't realize that it was so loud until this thing started to go. This thing is seriously quiet. Here's like a clip of it vacuuming while I'm eating. So one thing that, if you're familiar with robot vacuums, is that they're usually pretty loud. I'm so confident in how quiet this one is that I'm gonna eat dinner while it's going on, because it just really isn't that loud, and it's one of the most impressive things about it. Yeah, so extremely quiet, and this is based off of the suction level that you want in the app. There are 4 different suction levels to choose from, but if you just leave it at like the standard setting that it comes out of the box with, it works just fine, and it's incredibly quiet and very unobtrusive. Pro number 2 is going to be the mop. Like I said previously, I had the Roomba vacuum and then a separate one that was a mop, because they didn't have a combo at the time that I bought them. And the mop was kind of cool because it had a place to put water, as a mop would do, and then it had swappable pads. But you had to swap the pads every time, kind of like a Swiffer, and it would just push the dirt around rather than like suck it up. So they always recommend that you do your vacuum first and then your mop. Okay, makes sense, vacuum up everything and then do the wet mop. But the mop would still just leave streaks of whatever dirt the vacuum didn't get. It didn't actually like pick it up. So like, you ended up kind of having like a more gross floor because it just like highlighted where the dirt was. This one, on the other hand, has a rolling mop head. So as it's going, it's mopping, but then it's also cleaning that mop head, getting new water, and then redoing it. So it doesn't leave those streaks. It's like amazing. The other part about the mop head that I really like is that it runs continuously behind the vacuum. So rather than having one robot go, finish, come back, and then a second robot go and come back, it does it all at the same time. So as it's sucking up the vacuum, doing that dirt, right behind it is the mop. So it just gets it done. The other aspect of it is that when the robot goes from hard floor onto carpet, it immediately sucks the vacuum mop head up into the robot. It doesn't drag on the carpet at all, so that it can keep going, does the vacuum, and then as soon as it gets back to the hardwood, it drops the mop head and it just keeps going. It's just like so maddeningly efficient. You're like, how did nobody think of this before? And I've just been thoroughly impressed with it. Pro number 3 is going to be the docking station. So when the first robot vacuums came out, they just stored all of the dirt in the robot, which meant that you had to frequently empty them out. So the next iteration was they would put a docking station in it. So the vacuum would go out to its vacuuming, come back, the docking station would then suck out all that dirt and put it into a bag. And then you just had to empty the bag out of the docking station, put a new one in, and you're done. And they said that this allowed you to do like 30 days worth of dirt. The docking station's been around forever. It's a great invention. It's a great addition to the robot itself. Now that this one also has water, this docking station does a lot more. So you have a water bucket on the front that is clean water, and then right behind it is going to be the cleaning solution, so like their soap. Below that is going to be the vacuum storage bag that I was just talking about. And then on the back side, you also have a dirty water container. So the robot goes out, does its cleaning, and comes back. The first thing that happens is the docking station sucks out all of that dirt that the vacuum part sucked up and stores it in the bag. The next thing is the dirty water from the robot is sucked out and pumped into that dirty water container. And there are little heat jets on the bottom, and it will slowly dry the mop out as it cleans it so that you don't get that like gross moldy smell of the wet mop that just kind of sits there and air dries. So it'll also clean that out, and then it'll top off the water container on the robot with the clean water in that cleaning solution so that it's ready for the next time you send it out there. And on top of it, it has a nice little screen so you can see the status of the robot. It has some buttons that you can call the robot home. You can send it out to clean again. It's just a very sleek looking base with all that it's doing. And, you know, on top of that, it also charges it. But I guess I had just assumed that was understood. Pro number 4 is going to be the mapping and actual like cleaning cycles that the robot does. So if you're unfamiliar or you've never had a cleaning like a vacuum robot in your house, the first thing you do after you set up is you do what's called a mapping run. And the robot will not clean, but it'll just kind of go and explore your house and develop a map. So it knows where to go, and then it can kind of plan some efficiencies. In the app, you can also do things like label certain sections, rooms, and things. So you can set up different run programs to do like high traffic areas, or you can do, you know, no-go zones, just a bunch of different stuff. So with the Roomba, the way that worked is the robot would literally go and just bump into everything. It hit walls, it would hit furniture, it would hit islands, stools, chairs, whatever. And that's kind of how it determined the limits. I don't know if they have newer models that do something different. I'm just going off of my experience, and we'll leave it at that. This new one has what they call 3D vision. And so it's got a kind of camera LiDAR sensor array type of thing going on. And so when I did that first mapping run, I kind of made sure that most of the things in the house were picked up so that it could get a good picture of it. And this thing literally just drove down the middle of all these things. It would get close to things, do a scan, and then it would just go on. And I was like, this is kind of an inefficient mapping run. But then I pulled up the app, and it literally was showing me the actual walls without ever touching them. That just blew my mind, and it was a great first impression. The same thing happens when it's actually going and cleaning. The Roomba would go from wall to wall and would bump into things and smack things, and that's how it knew to turn around and go back. And I just thought that that's how robots worked. So I just kind of accepted that that was a thing. This thing, on the other hand, it does these like short passes. So it'll get close to a wall, but not actually touch it, and then it'll turn around and do that path. And then once it's kind of done with that area, it'll go up to the wall and do a turn to go parallel with the wall while just barely touching it and clean up that last stripe that it missed. So rather than every pass banging into the walls, it doesn't actually hit anything, but still cleans the same area just as efficiently. I just don't understand why the Roomba doesn't do that. Like, why does it have to bang into everything? Watching it run was just a game changer. I absolutely was blown away as it was doing it. All right, so those are my key highlights. I mean, there are other parts that I like because it's a robot vacuum, so I don't have to vacuum. I can set a schedule. I can do other things. But that's kind of just robot vacuums in general. So I didn't really feel like they needed to be covered here. But if you want to hear just some standard benefits, let me know, and I can make a follow-up video just explaining house cleaning robots. But like I promised at the beginning, I'm going to do some things that I'm not exactly thrilled with. So con number 1 is the base station. And I know that's kind of confusing because I literally said that it was a Pro, but there are some downsides to the station. The first negative about it, whatever, is it is absolutely massive. And so there are only a couple places you can actually put it in a house because it needs to be connected to power. And you have to have somewhat of a clear opening in front of it so that the robot can accurately find it and get back to it. So it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb if your design of your house and your interior decorations don't really align with this. Now I fully understand that it's got to have 2 water containers, the vacuum bag thing, the place for the cleaning fluid, and a way to charge all this. So I understand that it has to be a certain size, but like this thing is quite big. Now if you have a bad back or a bad knee, not having to bend down to press buttons is a benefit, but it does take up a fair amount of room and it does kind of weigh on a room with how big and the design language of it. The other part is it's kind of loud. For how quiet the vacuum is, the base station is very loud. Now, just like the Roomba, when the base station sucks out the dirt from the robot and stores it in the bag, it needs to provide enough pressure to like clean that thing out so that it's empty the next time it goes. So like it's loud. It sucks that out. And then the other thing is, as it's drying the mop roll head, to prevent the dirt from being trapped around and mold building up, it's loud-ish. It's just a constant blowing hum as it's blowing hot air and cleaning that. And in the app, it says that it takes 4 hours to clean that. So you just have a constant hum for 4 hours. And that's just obnoxious. Because it's not like loud and irritating as much as it is just like a slight ringing back here. Not ringing, but anyway. So just be prepared. If you have a location with power that you can put it out of the way, this will never be an issue. But for me and where I had to put it, it does kind of weigh on you. Con number 2 is going to be a problem that is shared across all vacuum robots, and for as good as this thing is, they did not solve the problem of pet hair. So I have multiple dogs living in this house with me, and they shed, and it is bridging on summer, so the dogs are shedding like crazy to get their coats out to cool off for the summer. And while this thing does a great job of picking up the hair, it doesn't do a great job of preventing that hair from wrapping around the roller. So roughly once a clean, maybe 2, if it's been a while since the last clean, it does send me a notification on the app saying that I need to go and assist the robot by cleaning that wheel. I understand that that is a price I have to pay for having dogs or an animal that sheds, but I would hope that with all of the research and development they went into to improve all these other systems, they might have found a way to solve that problem. So if you don't have animals that shed, this shouldn't be an issue for you, but seeing as like a lot of people do, I just wanted to call this out. It hasn't been solved, so just be prepared to help it out a little bit. Con number 3, the automatic mop head. Now, I love the mop head and I have a ton of great things to say about it. My gripe about it is that I think the sensor on when to lift and lift and drop the mop head is just a little off. So on the main floor, we have a bunch of hardwood that goes onto rugs. And so the sensor for the mop head to raise it is at the very front of the robot. Makes sense, right? You want to detect that early. So the front half of the robot will get up on that carpet, it'll detect that there's a rug there, and it'll give the signal to lift the mop head up. But the problem is there's still about, I'd say 2 inches or so of hardwood that hasn't been mopped. So there's always this little gap there. Same thing happens when the robot is dropping off of carpet back onto hardwood, is it waits just a little bit long to drop that mop head. So again, you have that little gap between the edge of the carpet and the hardwood where it's not actually getting mopped. Now, I'm sure there are ways where I could set it up to do an additional pass, or maybe I'm missing a setting or something like that. But I've just noticed that there is just the slightest amount of gap that isn't actually getting mopped. So for all of the benefits, there is just that little gripe there. Now, does that make my house look filthy, dirty? Do most people notice? No. Would I have noticed if I wasn't staring at this thing as it was doing it just because I was so amazed at how well it worked? Probably not. But it is something that I have noticed, and now I will continue to notice, so putting it out there. So, final thoughts on the Eufy Omni S1 Pro is 100% a go buy this from me. At $1,500 at the time of filming this, it is quite expensive. Not denying that. But I think the functionality of this robot with both the vacuum and mop and its mapping system not banging into all of your furniture in your house and the sound level of the actual thing while it's running is just top notch. And I just can't speak highly enough about it. And I plan on getting 2 more for every level of my house so that I don't have to worry about it. I can set up routines in the app, and my house is just always clean. I absolutely love this robot, and I hope that this gave you some information on it. And if you're making a decision, I've got a link down below, like I mentioned earlier. And if you've made it this far, make sure to drop a like and subscribe so you can stay tuned to my future reviews and adventures. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.